All right, it is Wages and Warriors time with myself, Mario Herron, and we're going to talk about Dustin Poirier's last fight in the octagon, the last go for the BMF belt with Max Holloway. These guys have already fought twice already in the UFC, and then now we have this moment that we'll get this weekend on Saturday. The card's not fantastic, so we're just going to spend this episode talking about Max versus Dustin and what kind of to expect from him, what we think is going to happen. First off, Dustin Poirier, a hell of a career in the UFC. He's been a champ. He's fought for the belt multiple times against Charles Oliveira, against Islam, and he's fallen short, but he's still up there with one of the best we've ever seen do it and step into the octagon. Going out his own way, too, where it's not one of those moments, not to crap on the guy, but not like a Tony Ferguson where game just clearly has passed him by and, he's past his prime. It's time for him to hang it up. He gets to kind of go out on his own accord, which is fantastic for him. I imagine he's going to be in the booth. I imagine he's going to be a UFC analyst or continue to talk about the fights and continue talking about the game because that's just kind of the direction he's going in. Very marketable, very nice guy, very well liked by fans, and fought in a very exciting way. But he gets his last hurrah this weekend against Max. And there's a lot of interesting stuff in this fight, right? A lot of different storylines. So let's kind of get into it. One storyline right away, just kind of get it out of the way, is no one has ever successfully defended the BMF belt, right? You had the Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz fight. Kind of the BMF belt, it wasn't as exciting as you wanted it to be because of the kind of the stoppage of they didn't think Nate could go any longer. So that kind of left it more to be desired. The Gaethje Dustin Poirier then fight for it after that, after Jorge is done with the UFC. And that was a kind of exciting one, right? Gaethje ends up knocking out Dustin Poirier, and he takes the belt. Then it clearly lives up to its name in UFC 300 with Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. The point down, they both meet in the middle. They're both swinging on for dear life. Max catches him. Justin goes to sleep. Boom, Max Holloway is a BMF champion. So that's an interesting storyline there, is that it's never been successfully defended. It's always just hop to a new guy, to a new person. And if Dustin does win it, he's going to retire. So it's going to go to someone new right away, even after he takes over the belt. Fascinating, right? The other kind of quick storyline to mention too, this is the trilogy fight for Dustin and Max, right? The first time they face each other was Max's, I believe, it was his first fight in the UFC. And, as he even described it, he kind of went in there, wanted to be calm, wanted to kind of let the fight to come to him. But then that bell rings. The next thing you know, he's the aggressor, right? And he's swinging and he's being everything that Max Holloway is. And, when you watch it, you go, he's very inexperienced in this. He's very chasing the moment and not really letting the moment come to him. And there's a middle ground, right? Like we've seen, Pitbull that's on this card that we're going to talk about, not in this episode, but the next one, he waits for the fight to come to him and it kind of never does. And then he just runs out of time and he loses the fight. And then there's I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to throw, power after power, punch after punch. Any chance I can get you, I'm getting you. And when you do that, you kind of tire yourself out or you leave yourself exposed. And you take a lot of damage or you get taken down. And Max Holloway situation with Dustin the first time, he gets taken down. Dustin's very good grappler, is able to get him in an arm bar. And boy, it looked really gross. It cringes me out a little bit. And then he submits him and he takes the win. Then Dustin and Max fight again. And this time there's a belt on the line. And in that fight, it goes back and forth. Both guys are going. One of those where even Dustin kind of says in interviews, like it kind of calm, again, kind of like surprised the power and the quickness that Max kind of had. And in that, Dustin ends up winning, but you can probably make an argument that Max won. It's like one of those where it was kind of 50-50, just kind of leaned Dustin's way. And then now that leads us to this weekend with Dustin versus Max. And those are the storylines. So finally, the last storyline is, I think, the most obvious, is it is Dustin's last go. It is his glove getting dropped, middle of the octagon. Thanks for it all. It's his last moment. He even said if he would have beat Islam for the championship belt, he would have been done. he would have, retired right away after winning the belt. He does it, puts up a really good fight against Islam, kind of holds his ground for a little bit, but ends up losing to him, which you can't blame the guy. I mean, if you look at Islam's resume, it's a resume that's very hard to be beaten because it is so insane and so good. All that being said, we now enter this weekend where, it is his last time. It is his last go around. But if you kind of look at Dustin's recent history and you look at, okay, who has he fought in his last 3 fights, right? So he had Justin Gaethje. Gaethje catches him. He knocks him. Respectable. Gaethje's one of the best in the business. He takes a company man fight, and kind of does what people did for him early on in his career, which is very admirable. St. Denis, he fights, takes care of St. And St., by the way, does pretty gives it to Dustin early on. Dustin shows his experience, is able to capitalize on a good knockout and takes home the W. But Dustin then gets a title shot because of who he is, and he deserve it. Did deserve it. And like I said, he drops Islam. I look at that and go, okay, so you've lost 2 of your last 3, and the 2 that you've lost to, yes, they've been warriors, and it's not like you shouldn't be pissed that you lost these guys. You shouldn't be embarrassed because a lot of people have, but they're cut from the same cloth. They're cut from the same talent pool as Max Holloway. And it's you can't really in the UFC go, well, if you lost to this guy and he beat that guy, you're screwed. Like, you can't really do that. You can't really do that in any sport. But just saying, Max did beat Gaethje. And if you look at what Max has done, Max's trajectory has been really interesting, right? So he has a trilogy versus, by the way, no one is better at getting trilogies after losing 2 of them, and then he gets that 3rd one. Then Max Holloway, shout out to him, that has great thinking. But he loses those to Volk, and he's kind of in this tough spot because Volk's clearly better than him, but he can't beat him. And the UFC's like, hey, it just doesn't make sense anymore for us to give you Volk when he keeps beating you. What, you're gonna get the 4th time you're gonna get him? That's not fair to Volk. And Volk's not gonna say yes. He's like, dude, I've proven so many times I'm better than him, and you're gonna make me do it again. And that's not fair to anyone in the division. You've had your shot. So he kind of has to rebuild himself again, right? Faces Allen Allen, takes care of him. Korean Zombie in his last go around, he takes care of him. He gets a BMF belt against Gaethje, takes care of him. And after this, he's suddenly back at the top. And you're like, wow, the hell's going on? Suddenly this guy that was in a weird position in his career is suddenly back on top. And that's kind of what I told, a couple episodes ago that Sean O'Malley should do, where, look, you can't beat Merab, and that stinks. But Merab at some point is going to have to move up because he's going to run through everyone. And you just keep stringing along victories. And O'Malley can, by the way. He can take out Peter Yan. I believe that. I think he can beat Umar. I believe that. I think he can beat Sandhagen. I believe that. So, I think he can follow kind of similar trajectory. But anyways, Max then gets back on top. He gets his title shot against Ilia Poirier. We all know how that ends. Ilia clips him. Game over for Max. He says, you know what, I'm done at this weight. I'm going to officially move up. And now we're here, BMF belt against Dustin. All this to say is I just think as of recent, Max has looked better. As of recent, Max has been the better fighter. As of recent, Max has done more damage. Max has been better. Just clear end of story. I know that there's a lot of things going for Dustin where you're not going to, it's his last go. The tank's going to be emptied. He's not going to tap, and there's going to be no tapping in this. But he's not going to go down unless you kill him. And that's going to make this fight exciting. That's to make the fight, I also think, probably go to a decision because I just think Dustin's pure will of pure, I'm not going down. I think he has that so ingrained in his head. But I just think at this point in his career, his skills aren't as sharp and they aren't up to caliber as Max's are. I think Max is the better fighter. I think he's the better striker. And it says in the numbers, obviously. I mean, Max's numbers are insane, and Max has the record for most significant strikes landed in one fight. It's insane. He has a record for most knockouts, for most wins, all in the featherweight division. It's a different division, but he's been at this weight before. It's not something new to him. Just along this line, he is the better guy. I lean him in multiple different ways. I think Max wins this fight. I think he wins it by the distance. So I don't think Dustin goes down in his last fight, but I don't think he's able to connect enough on Max, and Max is just going to outstrike the living crap out of him. On top of that, what Max, I think, might have to keep in the back of his mind, and maybe if I'm his team, I'm telling him this, these judges are very inconsistent. And I just, not saying it's out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if these judges go in there and they're a little leaning on Dustin because it's his last go and how likable he is and yada yada he's done for the company. I'm not saying it's collusion there, I'm just saying, just something to think about. But now all that being said, I think Max Holloway ruins the party. He ruins a retirement party for Dustin Poirier. And Dustin, thank you for everything. He's been hell of a fire, hell of a go. But that's how I think that goes. There's going to be more bets, more sides that I will have for the rest of the card. Just wanted to get these last thoughts on this fight. Really excited for it. Excited for it to get going. And got a little burn in the last card. Derek Lewis, holy crap, is he good? He ended up rooting a bet that I really liked in that last one. But what are you going to do? You lose some, you win some, you lose some, or you lose most. Who cares? Kick you in the nuts, you get back up, you put the cup on. But that's what I think for this one. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. More action coming on Wages and Warriors later on this week. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.